I get a smart, intelligent Chicano to tell this motherfucker that it's not Chicano's not a race.
I once had a Mexican from Mexico ask me if I knew the difference between a Mexican and a Chicano. When I asked him what that difference was, he said that Mexicans eat tortillas and Chicanos, they eat white bread. When I asked him in response if he knew of any other differences between Chicanos and Mexicans, he asked me to elaborate. And I told him this: most Mexicans have never even seen a tortilla, much less eaten one. That a Chicano, a true Chicano, knows that this is not a tortilla, nor is the flour version of this. This is Tlaxcal. This was here before the Spaniard or the Spanish language. This is a Spanish tortilla, or one of many versions of it. The Spaniard didn't have a name for this, so he named it after what it most resembled in Spain. He wasn't feeling that, so he said, "Nombre pendejo, what do you know? You never even been to Mexico." True that. I've never been to Mexico. I've been to Mexico. Because you see, a true Chicano knows that the Spaniard didn't have a letter for the SH sound in Nahuatl, so they replaced it with an X. Mexica became Mexica. Mexico became Mexico. And he said, "Nombre, we don't even pronounce it Mexico. In Mexico, we pronounce it Mexico." And I said, "True. Yes, you're absolutely correct." But a true Chicano knows that the H sound represented by the X in Mexico was turned into a J in 1754. All of that was brought to us. None of it is indigenous. Anyway, I said all that to say this. Did you know that both the Zapatistas and the National Indigenous Congress of Mexico both recognize the Chicano movement as an indigenous movement? So, does that mean that all Chicanos are indigenous? No. Because not all Chicanos are Chicanos. To understand this, you have to understand the true meaning of the word Chicano. You cannot be born Chicano. Chicano is not a race. Chicano is a way of life, an awareness, an understanding. And you cannot be born into it. You can only obtain it by way of putting in that work. Now, I don't know if, like me, you're old enough to remember when the movie Roots came out. I think it was around 1977. If you do, and you have a few canas in your head, you probably remember the aftermath of that movie. It instilled a huge amount of pride within the African American community, and everyone and his grandma claimed Mandingo. The same thing happened with the Chicano movement. Everyone claimed Aztec, regardless of whether or not they had any actual ties to the Mexica. They claimed an Aztec name, started speaking Nahuatl, without actually putting in the work. There are 68 indigenous pueblos, nations, and tribes in Mexico, yet everyone gravitated towards one, without actually making any sort of attempt to trace their actual lineage, without actually putting in the work. There are two different versions of Chicano: that which was, and that it has evolved to be. The Chicano movement wasn't just a search for an identity. It was a civil rights movement, a political movement, a social movement, an anti-assimilation movement, among other things. Chicano today is little more than lowriders, dressing cholo, pair of chucks, Stacey Adams, winos, cruising in your rampla with your ruca, listening to oldies. Now, true, those things did come from and evolve from the Chicano movement, but they weren't its foundation. Now, if you're looking to reconnect and want to claim Chicano, more power to you. But put in the work, and remember, there's a difference between knowing the truth and living it.